It's about. I had this thought about angels, and I thought, well, go from angels, and the angel of death is always the character that is most revered, thought of with sort of an austere sense of unwell-being. But I thought, well, supposing we had a tatty angel of death, one a bit grabby round the edges, and so this one is sort of an angel of death who spends his time in restaurants and cafes waiting for somebody to die. Sort of, are you ready? Nobody really listens, and he's sort of got crumpled wings, and he spends his time drinking coffee and looking through magazines until somebody's going to die, but nobody does. That sort of was the idea of. That was the idea. It was called Look Back in Anger. It was irresistible. Because once we'd done the waiting so long, it asked to have waiting so long, I've been waiting so. I mean, we did one thing which was a lot of fun, terribly frustrating for the musicians, but parts of it are fantastic and parts of it are absolutely dire, but that's what you expect, that's what one expects and hopes for, actually, that you get. So what we did is Brian and I, it was a very naughty thing to do, came up with a series of cards with chords on, you know, a card about that big, F, and then B flat, and we stuck them on the blackboard. And we had all the musicians sitting on chairs in front of the blackboard, and then Brian and I would alternately, with a pointer, point out which chord they were to play. And you could see all this hostility above the musicians' heads. More and more it grew more intense, and the more intense they got, the better it got. And so and we did this for about 30 minutes, and it just went on, and just kept yelling out which style they were to play in, and whatever. Unfortunately, I'm with guys who are very receptive to what I want to do, and they get angry, of course, and, you know, one sort of often finds hostility in the recording studio if they're not fully aware of exactly what is going on. And I couldn't help, because I didn't really know what was going to come out of it. And that's very hard to get through to other people if you say, well, I want to try something and I don't know what's going to happen. Often that can leave people feeling very, oh.
But by the time you actually got it final...
By the time we finished it, there were some excellent pieces on it, and probably we'll be able to use some of them. The best thing that I liked about it is that you get, say, 5 bars where there's some extraordinary mistakes. And then you could take that, say, 5 bars and loop it.
Yeah.
So those mistakes become an integral part of whatever the piece of music...
You get so far when you say, when you've gone quite a long way,
yeah,
and then you think, that is rubbish, really. Or nobody's going to like, oh, I don't like it. So, I mean, you've gone a long way on it, you've done a lot of work.
Oh, yes, that's terribly frustrating. What one tends to do is think of an entirely different approach to it, and just throw out everything that happened before and say, well, what if? Okay, let's emphasise all the mistakes. There, that's a good way to go. So you listen to it and hear all the mistakes and then make something out, sort of mould those mistakes.
You don't actually chuck it out, you just redevelop it.
Yes, it's a shame to waste anything. I mean, it really is, because everything has some kind of value. And it's a question of seeing where that value lies, you know, whether if it's in the so-called perfect part of the music, where everything's played correctly. And if it isn't there, then maybe it's in the mistakes, and so you go back and find all the mistakes and make something out of the mistakes.
People are quite tolerant with you about that.
Yes, they are. They're really good. Well, by now they are. Yes, over the last sort of 4 years, they've got used to me.
Do they recognise you, sort of, not as king, but I mean, if you say, I mean,
really.
do they dare? I mean, they're not dare argue, but do they?
Oh yes,
well,
of
if he
course.
says it, then it must be right.
No. Oh no, they certainly have their own points of view.
Yeah.